The Konektadong Pinoy bill has lapsed into law after President Bongbong Marcos did not sign it within the 30-day period. The law is aimed at boosting internet access and attracting digital investments. It allows new data transmission providers to operate without a legislative franchise or certificate of public convenience and necessity to expand connectivity, especially in remote areas. In a statement, Senator Amy Marcos hailed the measure, saying it will bring lower prices, better internet, and attract more businesses. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano also welcomed the law, calling it a step towards modernizing digital infrastructure and providing affordable, quality connectivity for all Filipinos.
And to weigh in on how this development might affect us all is former DICT Undersecretary Jeffrey Ian Dy. Thank you for talking to us, sir. Si Lord de Vera po at si Miss Denise Tan.
Magandang hapon po, sir.
Magandang hapon, Denise at Lord.
Magandang hapon po, sir. Okay, sir, bago po nag-lapse into law itong bill, matagal yun na pong wina-warning yung oversimplification po ng bill na ito ay maaring maka-apekto some concerns. Ano yung pinaka-major po doon sa ninyo, sir?
Okay, so two things. First is concern on national security and second is concern about economic externalities. Mas mahirap itindihin yung pangalawa. It's more about how the market dynamics work. So let me get this straight. The original version of Konektadong Pinoy before this particular version passed into law was very simple. And I supported that. No, it's about liberalization of the telecommunications industry by removing the franchise requirements for new entrants, the legislative franchise requirements. Kasi tayo na lang ang merong franchise requirement na nadadaan pa sa Kongreso, of all countries. And then second, it's all about sharing your passive infrastructure, tulad ng mga dadaan sa loob ng building, yung mga dumadaan sa kalsada, sharing of the passive infrastructure among all entrants and all players para bumaba ang internet cost. However, sa final version, merong Section 16 kasi. Yung Section 16 is, quite simply, ito yung oversimplification. They are forcing everyone. Either you're a new player, an old player like PLDT, a 100-year-old company, or Globe, or even Dito, new player ang Dito, but there are also 200 other smaller internet service providers could either be very, very small players who are new entrants, less than 5 years, or could have been there for about 10 or 20 years. They are forcing the infrastructure of these people to share to new entrants. That is the oversimplification. That is Section 16. So it's like this, Lord and Denise. Meron kang bahay. You build your own house. And then suddenly government comes in and tell you, you know what? We want to boost tourism. So we want all with their own houses to open up a rent through Airbnb for at least one room in their house. That's what happened here. So that's the major concern. And remember that not all telecommunications providers are created equal in terms of cost, investment, in fact, even in security investment. To give you an example, in Ireland, back in the early 2000s, YouTube was down for about a week because one small internet service provider misconfigured a border gateway protocol, affecting all other internet service providers, simply because they were interconnected.
Opo. So
And as we speak, there is a 15,000 fiber optic cable created by a Chinese company without any local representation in Northern Luzon, a very strategic piece of geographical area in Philippine sovereignty, Northern Luzon.
Sir,
So
sinasabi
now
naman
they will be forced to interconnect because of this law.
Opo. Yung leadership naman ngayon, sinasabi daw, ay baka ma-flesh out naman itong mga misunderstandings na ito kapag they finally sit down para i-clarify naman yung mga IRR pag inayos raw po yun, sir.
Well, in the spirit of cooperation, then of course, we should all sit down, all parties, the pros, the cons, in order to write the IRR. And that's how democracy works. Unfortunately, Section 16 is there and it is explicit. Therefore, no IRR can remove it. Because when the law explicitly states, the IRR cannot go against it.
Sir, ano pong magiging epekto nito? What will this law do to, those big stakeholders, pati na rin po yung mga small industry players? Kanina sabi niyo may 200 plus pa po, no, na internet providers.
Small players,
Opo.
yes. Yeah. So, number one, if the IRR is created equally and representative of all players, the good part is because you remove legislative franchises, then you'll have more players. No, we will see a market saturation somewhere. Kasi i-allow na rin yung foreign investors to come in, for example. So, with regard to the security concern, I hope that we can address that in the IRR so that we can be a little bit more stricter when it comes to interconnecting active devices. So, I'm in favor of connecting passive devices. Passive, Lord at saka Denise, yung mga tore, yung walang ginagawa. Yung passive, yung kable mo lang. Pag active na kasi, we're talking about interconnecting routers, switches with all other internet service providers. Mahirap na siyang i-monitor. And I hope, because the law envisioned DICT and NTC to take a closer look at all passive devices and active devices. I hope they have the technical wherewithal and also capabilities to be able to trace those. Kasi kung hindi, it's a big problem. Like I said, no? Maraming maliliit na players who are not really that technically capable. They just built the cable and akala nila yun na yung internet.
Oo. At may isang telco, no, na itago natin sa pangalang PLDT na they're gearing up for a major legal showdown talaga. I-challenge daw talaga nila ito. Tingnan natin. Pero, sir, pa-clarify lang po ito pong it forces daw yung transmission industry players to share infrastructure with other players but does not mandate telecommunications facilities used by mall subdivisions and real estate developers to do the same. Palinaw po nun, sir?
Correct. Yun yung actually, yun yung advocacy ko kahit nung undersecretary pa lang ako. Just to simplify para sa audience natin, Lord at saka Denise. Pag pumasok ka ng isang mall, kunyari SM, sila ang pinakamalaki, or Ayala, pansinin mo, walang ibang, isang telco lang gumagana. Diba? Kasi pag tumingin ka sa ceiling, may makikita kang parang ice cream cone. Ang tawag doon, picosite. Doon galing ang signal mo sa loob ng building kasi hindi tumatagos ang signal pag nasa labas. Pero ang problema dyan, alam niyo ba na pinauupahan yan ng mga malls? They rent it out per square feet for every cable and for every equipment that you bring in. That includes the pricing that factors in pricing. If you look closely, malls don't actually rent out water. They don't rent out power facilities. Why? Because they need it. But they don't need telco. So what they do is every time you get in, you have to pay a price. And when another telco wants to come in, they have the option to say no. Or to implement a large price for rent. So, in this bill, this law na ngayon, did not even address that. It just said encouraging DICT and DSUD and all other government agencies to create a regulation around this particular problem. The reason for high internet cost is in building real estate and the cost of tower build-up kasi you have to lease the land. This law didn't even touch that. So anong nangyari? Ako, naglagay ako ng kable, nagrenta ako o bumili ako ng lupa, naglagay ako ng tore. Here comes the law telling me, oh, by the way, thank you, nagtayo ka, but we're forcing you to now lease it out to all other players. But you didn't address my problem. My problem is the landlords. Diba? That's also the reason why when you go to Green Meadows, you go around Corinthians, what signal? Kasi ayaw nila magtayo ng report. Cancerous daw. Oh, well, I'm also a cancer survivor, by the way.
Ayaw na mga mayayaman
under pillows, wala namang rason ng telco doon, di ba? So, these are the problems that are actually haunting the telecommunication service sector, which we need to address in order to lower down costs.
So, sir, kunyari, ano naman yung posibleng medyo mabilisang solusyon sa ganyan? Bigyan ng gobyerno karapatan na, let's say, yung sa private property ay magkaroon kahit papano ng...
Yes. Gawin nilang public conveyance ang pagtatayo ng telco sa bawat isang public property. The same as power and water. Make it a utility. So when you do a subdivision, di ba pag gumawa ka subdivision, meron ka ng provision for power and water? Dapat meron ka ng provision for telco. Hindi lang yon. Pag nag-provision ka for telco, that conduit, lahat ng telco pwede dumaan. Hindi ka mamimili. Conduit I'm not, kasi yung dalo nga oversimplified. Ngayon kasi yung infrastructure na ginawa ko, gusto mo pag sama-samahan nating lahat, ako gumawa nun eh. Ang sinasabi ko, yung mismong may-ari ng building o ng subdivision, yung mismong daanan, ang tawag ng conduit, ipa-share mo sa lahat. Diba? Kanya-kanyang kable, pero nakashare kayo lahat. Then that will reduce the cost and that will ensure better market fair play among all players. Kasi ngayon kasi may consolidation, let's call it a spade. These giant telcos, let's say, Globe as a real estate backing it. Diba? Diba? Let's face it. Okay. Rockwell has like what? That's ABS-CBN, so it has Sky Cable, etc. Globe has Ayala Land, etc. So anong nangyayari? Nagkakaroon ng monopoly sa pagpasok.
Nako,
And that has to be solved.
baka may isang kumpanya na may real estate, pero hindi pa nila pinapasok yung telco. Tubig, pinasok na nila. Pero
Malay natin.
you can never tell, di ba? Pilipinas na lang pala ang may ganong, na kailangan humingi ng prangkisa sa Congress.
Well, merong ibang countries, but we're very, very few. Out of the 110 countries, mga less than 20. So tama yun.
Opo.
So let me check that out. That particular provision is correct to remove the legislative franchise, and we thank Congress for passing a law that is against their self-interest. They remove themselves from the equation.
Binasa
So
kaya nila yun?
that part is good.
Oo, kasi pwede na lang higpitan, di ba? Pero paano kanya rin nagkaroon ng prime internet? Patay tayo.
Nako, teka lang. Sir, pwede ko bang itanong, meron kasi kayong binanggit, yung we talk about better cost, better internet, lower cost, better internet, pero it might be at the cost of our national security as well. Meron mga certain, tama ba, areas na na-access tayo through our airspace? Can you talk more about that?
So it's another problem that the law oversimplified is that it said that any telecommunications providers, anybody, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, even if you want to establish an internet service provider company tomorrow, can get a satellite coverage, a satellite operator as your backhaul without going through the brouhaha of applying with an NTC permit. And that is a problem. Number one, unlike, bigyan ko kayo ng napakasimpleng problema, gambling. How do you block gambling? It's by ordering all telcos to use what we call a protective domain name server so that we can synchronously, in a hierarchical fashion, order the blocking of illegal online gambling. We can also do so for illegal white slavery sites and all other sites that we know are illegal. This is a technology that can easily be deployed. But if there is no franchise requirement, wag na natin tawagin franchise or permitting requirement for satellite. Tandaan niyo yung satellite, diretso international yun. Hindi yun dadaan sa gateway natin. Tayo kasi may mga gateway tayo. We're by the way, we're very, very fortunate. We have like 12 gateways na below, na nasa sea, no? Sa seabed natin. Pero pag satellite, diretso yun. Tsaka foreigner agad may-ari nun. Wala namang Pilipinong mayroong internet satellite sa orbital slot ng Pilipinas. Even in the orbital slot of the Philippines, the satellites there are not Filipinos. They're either Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, or whatever.
So kung may Starlink,
If you don't allow them to do a permit, how do you control internet traffic now? For the benefit of us. Diba? For our own benefit. And you see how proliferating phishing, scamming, and these online, illegal online sites are. So kung mawawalan tayo ng control, it will be harder to regulate them.
Well, all right. Marami pa sana tayong tanong, sir. But we thank you for your time. Thank you for joining
Thank you,
us.
sir.
this
you.
afternoon. Again, that was former DICT Undersecretary Jeffrey Ian Dy. Maraming salamat, sir.
Thank you, sir.